guys, how are you? Happy Wednesday. It's been a day, but I'm very excited to be here today to be chatting with it's Courtney Luna. If you don't know who she is, she's a former yacht chef who is now kind of a carnivore chef. And we're going to hear her healing story. I've been following her for a while. She is so down to earth and so cool, and I'm just so excited to kind of get to know her better. Hi guys. Hello, everyone. Hi, Luna. Are you here? Oh, there you are. Hi, guys. She's coming on. I see my friends. Hi.
Hi. Let me
How are
adjust
you?
my camera. Oh, and turn you up. There we go. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited to chat with you today. Thank you for making some time. I want to call you Luna. Does anybody ever call you Luna?
My screen name used to be The Hungry Luna on here, and I think people thought my name was Luna. So yes, I used to get it a lot.
Okay, cool. Um, well, Courtney, I have been following you for a while. Hi guys. Oh, hi Shayna. Hello. Oh my God, some old friends on here.
Hi.
Um, so I found your TikTok, and then I think that's how I found you on here
I
because
might have found you on here because you were one of the first people that I started following on here, and I might have even reached out and asked you a question or something. I'm not even sure,
oh,
but
okay.
maybe not. I don't know, but I remember you being one of the first people I found on
Oh,
here.
that makes me smile. Thank you.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So, okay, so can you just tell us a little bit? I want to, first of all, how and where and why did you decide to take this route as far as carnivore, keto, that whole journey? And I really want to talk to you about like the transition from I guess it'll be part of the story, like your chef, like on a, that whole, the chef thing and where you're going with that. But really your healing story first. So you want to start off with that?
Sure. Okay, so I'm no stranger to like low carb and keto. Um, Probably first started it like 6 years ago. Um, in and out because I strictly just used it as like a weight loss tool and it was never about health for me, sadly. um, so before I started this, I guess like the beginning of last year, January, um, is when I'm like, okay, I got to lose this baby weight after baby number two. So slowly got off probably like 30 pounds or so, doing lowish carb, tracking macros. And then I got caught up in the anti-diet culture and the intuitive eating. And I was like, oh, well, let's just stop what's been working for me and let's put everything on the table. All foods are okay, nothing's off limits, no foods are good and bad. Well, it no, like not good if you're like me and you're an emotional eater, binge eater, horrible relationship with food my whole life, yo-yo dieting. So that was like the most horrendous decision I've ever made. And I slowly gained 40 pounds from that. I probably started that November last year or September or whatever. And yeah, and woke up one day and I'm like, what the hell happened? And I get so much hate for how I'm eating this way right now. Where was everybody when I was gaining weight, eating croissants and cookies? Mind blowing. So to wrap that up, my husband has always kind of been keto. And one day well, not one day, he sends me like a million TikToks every day. Apparently that's his love language. And I was getting a lot of them from Carnivore MD, from Dr. Paul Saladino. And one day, like after seeing a lot, I'm like, okay, what do you keep sending me? Like, what is this? Like, is this a thing? Like, we shouldn't be eating vegetables? And he's like, I don't know. I just keep seeing it and I haven't looked into it yet. So we started to look into it and here we are. I started off that way. For I think like 5 weeks, I was animal based, still kept it low carb ish. I was probably around 50 carbs. I didn't track, but a little bit of maple syrup, some berries and some avocado. Like when you've been tracking for so long, you kind of know where you're at. And that worked great for me. And then I started noticing, even after eating like a shit ton of meat, like I should have been good for that day, I was still wanting that fruit. And I think I was like craving that sugar. So for now, I gave that up and I'm strict carnivore, and that works good for me right now. I've said I'll toy with the idea of maybe adding it back in the future, but a lot of people are like, no, don't do that. So that's where I'm at now. I'm about four months in on this whole shebang.
Cool. Thank you for sharing so openly about, you know, your story and your past. I definitely relate to the binge eating and the sugar addiction. Yeah, so I actually had some people asking about like when they saw me bite into like on some of my reels more recently. I've been making some posts to sort of show what my food looks like, and mainly for clients, because they're watching this stuff and I'm like, okay, I'll post some stuff and then everybody can kind of see it there. But like I'm biting into this butter and then I'm getting like, you know, wait, you eat that like cheese. And I'm like, well, I actually just made a reel. I haven't posted yet about like the feedback. It's like, okay, in the past, guys, not only was I eating the 2 burger patties, I had the bun with the high fructose corn syrup. And those 2 tablespoons that you see of such clean, like pure grass-fed butter that you're seeing on my plate was actually 2 tablespoons of hydrogenated filled soybean oil mayo on top of the burger with the high fructose corn syrup patty and whatever else I'm putting on there, plus the French fries that were soaked and saturated in, you know, canola oil or whatever, peanut oil, whatever they're using. And then on top of that, I'm having, what I would do is sometimes I would take half the bun off and I kind of slowly would, you know, I was working my way into low carb, but like I would take half the bun off, but I would still have some French fries. I was still, and that was never an issue. My triglycerides were all over the place. My inflammation markers were terrible. I was having ulcerative colitis like you wouldn't believe, on like medication, all of that stuff. And then you see 2 burger patties with a little bit of butter, and it's like, what are you doing? Yeah, my triglycerides are fantastic. My HDL is fantastic. I mean, everything looks, my inflammation markers are fantastic. My gut is completely healed. Like today, I can eat avocados. Today, I can choose to eat some veggies if I want to. In season, like if it's in season around summertime, locally to my area, I will enjoy some fruits here and there. I have to be really careful with those though because of the sugar. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel you on that. But yeah, so it's been it's interesting, right? But I have found too, at least luckily for me, in my immediate sort of circle of friends and family, they're just kind of like, okay, you know what, that's working for you and that's great, and they're supportive. But like, I don't know, I feel you on that. It's like, here I lost, you know, you've lost weight, you're doing better, and it's like, well, but you're eating red meat, you know.
Yeah, I don't get why like all those and garbage ingredients. I hate to say that because I mean my kids still have them, so it's not coming from a judgy place, but like why that's okay and why that's glorified. I'm still really effing riled up. I don't know if you saw yesterday, a big dietitian stitched one of my videos, and this isn't the first time. Abby's Kitchen has done it before, but I don't even remember this chick's name. And she ripped me a new one on how I'm feeding my kids, which it wasn't even accurate because she's like, your kids shouldn't be carnivore or keto, which they're not. So I'm still like fuming from yesterday. And because so my kids need to be eating donuts every day for you to feel good about what I'm doing parenting wise. Like I just don't understand like this whole like food thing, and the food is good, but I don't know, like, and so I keep getting told that like I just traded one eating disorder for another and I'm gonna ruin my kids from being so restrictive. I'm like, this must be coming from people that don't understand how nutritious red meat is. I mean, what am I restricting from? Ingredients that make us not feel good? Like this whole thing just really gets my blood boiling.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. You know, I too, I have 2 kids and they're not keto. They are not carnivore. They eat all the things. And for me, it's like this is the lifestyle I chose. And it's not like we live in a world where they're not going to be exposed to this stuff at school. And so I feel you on that as well. Like, I can't tell my kids like, hey, we're going to a birthday party, but you can't have cake here. You can have this. And I'm just not gonna, that it, to me, like, I feel you on that. Like the best thing we can do, and this is my opinion as parents, is be examples of what health looks like. And I understand today, for me, I've tested. I'm not one of those people who just jump into, well, I was one of those people that just jumped into things and try. But like, I've had this disease of ulcerative colitis. So I have had to do this with my doctors. Like, I have had to go to them, be like, look, I'm doing this. And all the while, like when I started going keto and then they would see my blood test. So for me, this works. And I just hope that my children, in as they grow up, they will learn that, mommy found something to help heal her body and her mind and whatever because they've never seen me eat cake. They've never, not even on my wet, like, I'm a sugar addict. I can't. That's like me having drugs, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if and when it comes age for them to kind of question and ask these sort of things, I'm going to be here to support them, and I'm already going to be an example of what that is. And so that to me is more important in helping them, guide them into what's going to be right for them. This is just where I felt, and I feel the best this way, and clearly we can see that in, I've even done the DNA testing where, it was very interesting because I'm from Nepal. So, like, in there, it literally showed why I thrive on butter, because for so many, in my DNA, for so many, however, hundreds of years, they were drinking butter coffee, goat
Mm-hmm.
butter, like from goats and cows and whatever. And it was a thing. So, no wonder I do so well on, certain things. But I'm really sorry that that's going on. I think the best thing to do, especially like, I feel like when these people reach out and they say things like that, I'm just like, what's going on with you that you are here on social media finding the need to say that's enough in its own when you see
Yeah.
that. And it's like, I always stress with my posts is like, this is my experience, and I'm just here in hopes that maybe someone else who's suffering asks for help, whatever that looks like for you. I do believe that going low carb and taking sugar and carbohydrates and all of this type of stuff lower in our diets and adding some meat and that kind of stuff is way better than just eating the standard American diet every single day. And I do have people that I work with that can go out and have a donut on a weekend out in Timbuktu on vacation, and come home and do a fast and read right back into ketosis and go right back into their healthy lifestyle, which is totally fine. Like, you know what I mean? I just can't do that. I can't do that. I will eat the donut plus relapse and probably end up where I go. And I'm also sober. So for
Same.
me, I don't you oh you are, I didn't know you are. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
high five, girlfriend.
Yeah, I just hit 500 days last week. So,
Okay, you know what?
and
I did.
so, yeah. So, like, same thing what you're saying. Like, you can't just have one donut, and I can't either. That's like, people, oh, have a cheat meal, have whatever. It's like, well, go tell an alcoholic to just have one drink right now. I can't do that either. I'm going to have all the drinks until I pass out and go to bed that night. So, same thing with the food and the sugar. It's got to be off the table for me, at least right now. At least right now, I feel fine without it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have noticed in my journey, I'm an abstainer. Like, I don't have this moderation thing. So the foods that I do eat are foods for me that do not trigger this craving for more. And they just, the energy that I have, I'm not lethargic. And two, I'm also one of those high fat ones. So, like, I can't, if I just have protein and I'm not like, if I just do like carnivore, like all just meat only, I tend to come right out of ketosis. I don't feel great. But when I have the right ratios, and again, I worked with Austin Cavelli for a while, and we went to town figuring all of this stuff out because in the blood work and all that. And I just do better with higher fat as far as energy wise and being able to stay in. For me, ketosis is a really important place that I am getting to, because that's where I feel the best. And that is what's really bringing inflammation out of my body for the ulcerative colitis. And that's where I saw a lot of the numbers drop. So, you know,
Yeah,
not,
I think everyone needs to kind of figure out what ratio works for them. And I'm not tracking anything. So I'm still like, who knows where I'm at, honestly. I'm seeing a lot of people doing the 80-20 right now. Have you seen that at all? Like with Dr. Boz and stuff, I think is leading this thing. So yeah, that's interesting too, having like that high fat. Yeah, I'm not even sure what's best for me. I'm just eating a lot of fat and a lot of protein, and it seems to be working. But I haven't done
yeah,
any of those like glucose finger
yeah.
pricks or anything. So
I'm familiar with the ketone monitors and all of that stuff because in 2017, when I started to try a ketogenic lifestyle, I was like, okay, I'm going to get these things so I can kind of see where I'm at. But I'm very familiar with 80-20 from back then because that's
okay,
typically, actually, it was more like 75 grams of, 5% carbohydrates coming from like green leafy vegetables. And then it was 75% fat and 20% or something, 25% or something like that, protein. And then I was doing that and I pretty much figured out like what a plate would look like for me. But then I was like, I really want to go vegetarian. So I was trying to do keto vegetarian. And that's when I started having a lot of issues with my gut again. And I was back at the GI doc and she was like, what is going on here? Like and you were fine. And I was like, well, I've been doing the kale and spinach smoothies with avocado. Like I'm really trying to do this. She goes, oh, and I was like, I really want to go vegetarian. And she said to me, something that I'm seeing in my clinic, and I don't know why, but I don't think you should go vegetarian. A lot of the people in my practice who have these types of colitis, Crohn's, IBS, they tend to do better on meat. I don't know why that is. She didn't know why that is, but she was like, do not go vegetarian. In fact, take the kale out and take the spinach out, keep the avocado, so I did. And thank God for her for being able to say that to me. Um, but yeah, so now the carnivore, and then I was like, I'm gonna go try fully carnivore, and that's when I got in touch with Austin to track. And now I still do 80-20. Like I'm seeing all of this 80-20 stuff, and it's like that's basically what we figured out for myself. So I've been posting a little bit more about that too, because that's really what works for me. Like I know all about like people are gluconeogenesis, blah blah blah. It is I get kicked out of ketosis and I end up gaining weight if I have too much protein. But in the beginning, all I did was eat protein and fat, protein and fat, protein and fat, protein and fat. And the sky's the limit to heal, to like heal my body, which did happen.
okay, yeah. I mean, I feel like so new at this that all that like there's only so much I can like take in and take on at once, baby steps. But yeah, it's definitely something I would want to look into and just make sure that I don't know, I'm on the right track because I guess why all those girls lately have done the 80-20 is I guess they were realizing that all the meat was making their forget like their glucose levels
Yeah.
high, like they looked like they were pre-diabetic or something. So I don't know, it's interesting.
I don't know about the pre-diabetic if but so basically you go into gluconeogenesis and gluconeogenesis is just like your liver is deciding to switch from using the fat for fuel and to using the protein. They're like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to choose to switch over to using this and turning it into glucose because that's what I'm going to do. So eating higher fat keeps you from, excuse me, from that. But that's not like you'll hear people say, that's not like you're eating a steak and that's like now going to turn into some like high sugar donut or something. It's not like that at all. It's actually very normal process that happens in our bodies and we need it to happen to have a little bit of I think there's a teaspoon of sugar for 55 liters of blood that we have. Like that's all we need in our bodies is that, and our body can provide that for us. So we don't need to be pounding glucose in there, like sugary stuff into our blood. And I think the average American eats like 31 grams of sugar, which is 120 or 130 grams of sugar a day.
Yikes.
And it's like now you take the sugar out, and so if your body's just, so it just means a little bit higher fat for some people, and I just happen to be one of those people that just do better on fat anyway. So but I do try to make sure I'm getting enough protein, because I think that sometimes with this, the protein can be a little bit restrictive. And for me, that's where I'm getting all of my vitamins and minerals and all the things, right? So,
Yeah,
you know, that's something for later down the road for you, though, like if you ever even need to like look into that. But that's what I love about this whole way of eating. It's just so easy.
it is. Yeah, I was wondering if they're cutting back on the proteins, are they still getting everything they need? So that was a concern for mine too. So,
Yeah. That, and so I do use the Keto Mojo to like test, and um I do it a lot more because it's like I want to show people that I work with, like, okay, these are kind of my numbers and this is my experience. Not that it's going to be your experience, but like definitely test, don't guess. Like, let's see what your numbers are. And I have seen most of the time it's not an issue for people. I also am leptin sensitive. I'm like so sensitive to carbohydrates that if I have them, I get heart palpitations. Like they just do a number on my body. Like it just completely wreaks havoc on me. My depression comes back like instantaneously. Anxiety comes back like instantaneously. And I've tested this like a few right before I came into this, like started my account and everything. It must have been 2018. Well, I guess I started in 2021, but in 2018, I was like, okay, this is a low carb bread. I'm going to eat it. But it was like, just said that on the label and I ate it. And then the binge disorder kicked in because like it's like addictive to me. So as soon as I'm set off, like an alcoholic, as soon as it goes into my body, I don't know what I'm capable of. And I started pounding it literally at the kitchen table within seconds. The whole thing, trigger warning by the way, guys, this is intense stuff, but like I immediately, Courtney, I had heart palpitations. I was like, I almost had to run outside because I started feeling claustrophobic things. I woke up the next day with so much, like an emotional hangover, the feeling of a hangover, but like I didn't drink alcohol, and so it doesn't work for me. And that was happening to me a lot. I just didn't know that that was one of the sources of my depression and anxiety.
yeah,
And that.
yeah, that's really interesting how much that plays a part, especially, I mean, I'm on 1 week of being off of Zoloft, and I could tell that my mood was shifting even though I was on it because it was never 100% for me. Um, and yeah, it's crazy what food can do to really, I mean, obviously it came into play because if I'm animal based or carnivore for 4 months and I feel good enough to go off of my medication, I mean, that says something what food is doing to us and our brain and everything. So, yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I have experience with Zoloft too. When I was on it, I felt like I couldn't feel a lot of things. And that after a while, I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to completely, like, I don't want to completely numb out, but I also don't want to feel anything. So I guess I'll just keep drinking and like get off this stuff because, and then thank God, because knowing me, I would have started mixing the two probably. We do have a couple of people here that are, I think, asking some questions. So you think fruit and honey is bad for you? Um, do you want to take your take on that, or do you want? I'm happy to
You can
share.
go for it. Yeah.
So I personally, I'm a sugar addict, which means honey. I can't have honey. I'll drink the whole thing. Also with fruit. I have to be very careful. Like I can eat a whole bushel of peaches, a whole thing of bananas. Like I just, when sugar gets in my body, like if it is a health product like honey or fruits or something like this that is going to spike my insulin and turn into glucose in my system, I can't have it, period. That's just me. Now, with that being said, also, if you are carnivore or keto or like as a keto coach and someone who coaches people with the ketogenic diet, this is not something that I would recommend because it does take you, honey will take you out of ketosis, and certain fruits will, like people that I work with can eat blueberries, they can eat certain things, and they do test and see if it's working for them. And typically they're able to stay in ketosis and jump in and out of ketosis with that metabolic flexibility of glucose to ketosis to keep burning ketones. And so my experience and what my thoughts on this are is that if you are someone who doesn't have an allergy, like an addictive, I call it an allergy because that's what it feels like, but an addictive, you're not addicted to sugar, then occasionally I think that it's fine if you're going to choose to have that over, I don't know, like actual cake or something. Then I would say that on occasion it would be fine to have these things, maybe more in the summer and maybe more like that would just be me on vacation or something like that. But all in all, if you are trying to achieve like a goal, ketosis to me is so important because it literally is the number one thing in my body that took inflammation. It's extremely anti-inflammatory, and I've seen that now in my blood work and my numbers. So that is, I don't want to say that it's bad for you, but because again, bioindividuality is a thing. I personally do not incorporate honey into my lifestyle. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. That's why I always kind of say, like, I'll toy with the idea of adding it in once I'm at my weight loss goal. But like right now, having it would trigger more, and then I'd be eating more, and I'm not going to lose weight that way. But I don't. It probably wouldn't change. I mean, I'm sure the same reaction would happen. So I don't even know if that's the thing, but I would see myself maybe having like a bite here and there. But right now, I feel like it's going to derail where I'm going. So yeah, I'm not having that right now either.
Yeah. Yeah. That, so I think that you just have to sort of play. I mean, you have to know yourself in these areas. And so we can only vaguely answer those questions with our experience. I think someone, okay, going back to nutritionists, misery, let's go. Everybody's just supporting you with all of this stuff going on, and to just keep doing your thing. Okay. I don't, okay, people are, okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about mental health. I always love to touch on this topic because I have found not just, the healing of the inflammation in my body, but I have found amazing benefits to eating low carb, animal based, keto, any of the above. I am like, and taking out the processed foods and whatever. If you fit into these categories, I started seeing benefits in my mental health just from going low carb, just from taking out processed foods and eating more whole foods, and then really truly like adding more meat and higher fat. So what are some of, and so I know it's been a kind of a shorter period of time, but like what are, like in your daily life, what are some of the things that you've noticed mentally with your, I always say food and mood, and like they go together, like mentally and emotionally. So what have you noticed about emotional regulation? I find it fascinating what I am seeing with people with this.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel a difference. I think I'm still kind of, it's still kind of wonky just because I still have that Zoloft in my system. So, everyone talks about like the mental clarity, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm quite there yet. And maybe because I'm still like being drugged or whatever. But yeah, I've seen a shift in my mood. Even my husband noticed, because it was like a group talk in a way, like, okay, I want to go off these meds because I went off of them in January, before I was carnivore. And I was probably off for a month before it's like, I need to go back on these. Like, it was rough. And I have two little kids. And I think part of this stemmed from, I mean, postpartum depression, if you want to call it that. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have felt like I did if I didn't have little kids driving me nuts all day. But yeah, I definitely feel a shift in my happiness and just overall. I'm excited to see how I feel being off the meds all the way, because I definitely feel like something's still kind of cloudy. And like to that effect, when you were saying like the numbness, like I have cried so much this week. I am normally a very emotional person. And when you're on Zoloft, it kind of just, I don't really care. Like, it is what it is. I remember like sometimes my husband would look over at me like when we're watching something to like see if I was crying. Nothing. Things that would normally make me cry. So I feel like I have like a year of tears built up that's coming out. And not even for bad things. Just, like TV shows that make you cry or whatever. And it's just all being
Come.
released right now. And even though I feel like a little crazy, it feels good to like feel like myself again and feel those emotions and not be numbed out. But I'm also not knocking the drugs. I mean, maybe it could have been better if I addressed my diet, but I definitely 100% needed it at that time
Mhm.
for mine and my whole family's sanity.
Yeah.
But I wish my doctor would have asked me one question about anything. There was no questions like, oh, you're feeling like this? Okay, here you go. There was no, diet, exercise questions. It was just so quick to medicate. So that's an issue, I think, not getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah, I'm glad I agree with you. I'm glad you brought up medication, and I have a long history and story with medication, and I feel for me, my thoughts around that is medication saved my life. It saved my life. It literally put me into remission. I was covering up the symptoms, and it did work for me, and I needed it in order to be able to take on healing, because without it I just would have been completely sick. So for me, just being able to be on the meds, and I also want to preface this by saying I am specifically talking about ulcerative colitis. I'm not talking about like if you have to go somewhere and you need an infusion or you need meds now or something's going on with you and you need chemotherapy. Like, I'm not talking about any of this kind of stuff. Like, we have to do what we have to do. And for me, I needed to take that medication in order to even begin my healing journey. Because that's just like, and again, like I tell people all the time, is like I basically held the hands of my doctors all the way, being like, okay, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to wean off now. So just so you know, I'm going down to now, from 9 pills, I'm going to go to 8, and then 7, and then 6, and then I went into remission. So I was like, I think I'm just gonna go. And literally my doctors were like, okay, if you want to, if that's your choice and you want to. Again, I think I've just been really fortunate with some of the doctors that I've had. I don't know, not all of them have been like this, but when I look back, even when I was pregnant and all of that stuff, I just remember my doctor being like, well, you are in remission and it looks like you're doing okay, so let's monitor you, and if you see any symptoms, we'll just go back on. And so I went off for a while, and then I saw symptoms again, and my um diseases, whether it's the mental stuff or the physical stuff, stress is a huge part of that for me. So I have to gauge my stress as if it's like medicine. And having a higher fat diet calms my brain so much that I feel there's days, and I've heard even some of my clients tell me things like this, where all of a sudden you're just boom, you're just hit with like bliss and gratitude, just walking around, just doing life. Like my brain feels so amazing and my body feels so amazing. And yeah, and I weaned off over the course of let's see, I was diagnosed in 2006. I went on and off the medication until 2017. Is so by the time I went fully keto, I weaned off. And then when I went carnivore, like full carnivore, right before I started working with Austin, I was completely off.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you said that, it gave me the chills and my eyes kind of wandered, just like the random feelings of like bliss and gratefulness. I even just felt that like I remember last week like walking through Home Goods by myself and just had this like I almost just wanted I felt like I was going to cry. Okay, now because I just felt so damn happy out of like nowhere. Oh, I got the chills and now I'm going to cry. But it's like I hadn't felt that in so long.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I know. This is the same. So one of my clients was literally telling me, she's like, I don't know what is going on, but I think it was like we had been working together for like a month. And she was like, I was just going to pick up, so, they have amazing stuff in Hong Kong that you can get in the grocery store. She was going to get some like raw kefir or whatever from the grocery store. And she's like, I was just coming in here to grab some of that and some coffee. And all of a sudden I was hit with, and she used the word bliss, and she was like, what was that? And I was like, yep, you are so incredibly nourished right now and your brain is getting what it needs. Like in my experience, that's my experience. Like I go through every single day where I have that as part of my life. I'm able to access this amazing part of what I think humans, in my opinion, I was blocked off from sugar and carbohydrates. And this is just as a sugar addict. Like, I think the reason why, for me, is I used it as a drug to feel better. So I never got to feel what it felt like to actually be alive in my body. Um, and so I was using all of that stuff to numb out because I think I just never had experienced this type of feeling before. So I'm so happy for you. And it seems to be always in like a grocery store or something, like just like nowhere.
I think because we can like kind of like let our minds wander or there's not other distractions. But I'm really glad you like pointed that out because I didn't realize, I guess I didn't realize what was happening and that it's a thing and everyone else. Yeah, just because I haven't felt that good in so long.
I always like to point out too that when we look back on even just like whether it's like tribal texts or religious texts or anything like that, fasting is definitely incorporated in there. Fasting with prayer, fasting with whatever the case may be. I definitely know in my culture, fasting is a part of that culture. And not only you're fasting, but you are doing some of the traditions along with connecting to the spirit, to whatever that is for you. And so I believe in so spirit, right? Spiritual means connected with spirit energy body of your spirit, your spiritual. So when you for me I should say, I have experienced more of my higher self in the state of ketosis, which is a fasted state. And also what I'm starting to learn, because I'm a nerd and I like to nerd out on all different types of texts and things like that, is this is what people did to connect to their source. So I believe when we are experiencing more of a fat burning state where we're using fat for fuel, it's a long, steady burn, and we're able to really access all of the stuff. At least for me, I'm able to access my tools better. All the years of therapy, I'm able to like put those into play now. And when you're fasted, you go into ketosis and you go into autophagy. And I think that that's a really, really spirit connecting place, like a connected place to just all things. And that's what I experience that's why I chose now the name Primal Kumari, because I just feel so connected to the earth. And Kumari means princess in my language. So it's like the perfect fit. But so isn't that fascinating?
And I love that you pointed it out because I've never really like made that connection, because I find myself very spiritual too, maybe a little even on the woo side of
Mhm.
things. But I never connected it as a way to kind of tap into that side, which makes sense because if your body's not worried about, being busy digesting your food or doing whatever, then it has the energy to focus on other things. So I need to like someone remind me this. I can't write it down right now, but like that, I love that. Like that just totally makes sense. And I've been kind of falling off of the intermittent fasting thing lately, but now that you connected with that, like I love that, and that clicks for me. Like use it as a tool to tap in a little bit deeper too. So that was
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And just like, so people typically will fast to for, they'll say autophagy, but actually ketosis is a fasted state. So like even if you're eating these foods and you're in ketosis, you're likely to be able to have more of that. And I think that's why we're feeling that. Is again my opinion. That's why I'm feeling these things, because I feel incredible when I'm burning ketones. I also do know that I can go back and forth. So metabolically the flexibility is there again because I do the testing. And I don't do the testing all the time, but when I really want to know something about myself, I really want to understand these numbers of what my ketones are. But yeah, so just so you know that you don't have to actually go into like completely 72-hour fast or whatever to like feel this feeling of bliss and connectedness. In For me, in my experience, it's just eating this way. It has done that for me. And also I talking a little bit about fasting, I have some experience with that. I can't do a lot of fasting. Because for me it causes so much stress on my body that my cortisol rises, and if my cortisol rises, it's the stress on my body, one, kicks me right out of ketosis, and two, I start seeing symptoms of like mucus and in my stool, and like all of that starts to happen. So with fasting, I used to do fasting, like intermittent fasting through the morning, and then I wouldn't eat till a certain time. And then when my life started getting busy with stress and moving and all of that, I decided to add breakfast back in and then stop the intermittent fasting. And then I will fast from my last meal until the next morning, but I eat pretty early in the morning, like 7:45, the latest 8:30. And a high fat, the protein meal. But otherwise, like for me, and that's why I talk about bio individuality and trying to figure out things for for yourself, because I find a lot of women, cortisol does, as we age, cortisol is something that makes us hold on to weight. And I'm sure you know a little bit of it. Katie Kelly, she talks about this all the time, the cortisol, the cortisol, the cortisol. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there as we're talking about fasting. Do you have anything else you want to say on that? Because
Yeah,
there's a
no, just to like double down on that. I have now, obviously, I'm still learning, I'm new at all this, but yes, I have heard that just eating this way does kind of mimic the benefits that you get from fasting as well. But yeah, like you said, everyone is different on what works for your body with the fasts and whatnot. But even just having, I feel like that overnight fast and not having the late night snackings is important. I mean, to me, at least having that like 12-hour eating window, or 12 hours where you're not eating minimum, I think is what works for me. I sometimes do like an 8-hour eating window, but I don't push it, and I don't do it the week before my cycle. Like I don't Dr. Mindy Pelz is a great resource for me with if you are interested in intermittent fasting with your cycle, so you're not messing up your hormones.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's one of the people I found, years back when I started messing around with all this. But um, so thank you for sharing that. We have someone here who's talking about bowel movements. No, it's not crude at all. If you are new to my channel, I talk a lot about stool because ulcerative colitis. So and it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's nothing, it's totally a normal thing that all human beings do. So I did not experience constipation. I actually experienced the other. I had diarrhea in the beginning. But again, I was working with someone, and she was like, this is totally normal, give it like 3 days or so. And it did end up going away. And then I think because I wasn't eating enough, she was like, you're not eating enough. Like we started tracking. So I went surplus, like over 2,000 calories, which was crazy for me. And I was just eating and eating and eating and eating and not worrying about the calories and the tracking and the macros but just eating meat and making sure I was having butter and meat and, basically carnivore. I was strict carnivore for those 3 months when I was working with her. And I saw a huge change and the bloating went away. And then so there was a 3-day period where I didn't have any bowel movement at all. And then when I did start having them, they were just normal and like they were smaller than what I was used to because I didn't have all of the fiber from the spinaches and all of that stuff that I was eating. And they were just really easy. And like for me, that was not my story. I know some other people have constipation issues and stuff like that. And from my understanding, that's typically like minerals can definitely fix that too. If you're like hydration, 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 this is like really important when you're living this lifestyle because we do squeeze a lot of minerals out, like flush out of our system with this lifestyle because we don't have carbohydrates. Carbos hydrate the cell. And when we don't have carbos hydrating, we need to make sure we are hydrating. So I drink about 100 ounces of water a day. I do take salt. I have about 2 teaspoons of salt a day. I also, this is for me, so don't take this as I have figured this out for myself. And then I have about 2 teaspoons of salt a day, Redmond's real salt. And then I also have electrolytes. So I guess every hour you sweat, every workout, every hour, that's 1 teaspoon of salt you're losing. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I will add to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're more experienced than me, but yeah, like you said, the electrolytes, especially in the beginning and the transition, so sodium, which is easy, salt, magnesium, and potassium. So I know there's different types of magnesium. It can give you loose stools. But another easy thing that I hear, I haven't had constipation issues, but just upping your fat. That the fat is just kind of keeping things regular. So yeah, I think with the salt, I mean, I've had too much salt water and you will run to the bathroom. So that's
Yeah.
also a balance that will clean you out. So,
Yeah.
but also, I mean, and you kind of touched on this is, and I haven't experienced this, but a lot of people say because you're not eating all this food that needs to be wasted, that you can go days without a bowel movement with it being normal. Now, granted, if you feel like it needs to come out and you can't, that's different. But if you feel fine and it's just been a few days, I wouldn't be concerned, but I would definitely pay attention to your salt, your electrolytes, and your fat intake.
Yeah, definitely. And salt is so bioavailable, guys. It's like instantaneously you feel recharged. At least I do. I have like a bottle like this, and right now I have half a teaspoon of salt in here. And that's like kind of for whatever my day is. But like when I go to yoga, which I was supposed to go today, but something happened, I was taking this, and that way it's hot, strong yoga. Like they do all the weights and stuff. It's instantaneous charge for me. I feel it instantaneously. And so it is incredibly bioavailable, and you can use that as a marker too. Like if you're running to the bathroom, you definitely had too much salt, and you can reel it in. So you can easily figure that out. Again, like if you're somebody, I don't know why I feel called to saying this, but like if you're somebody who is trying this way of eating, but you have a binge eating disorder, so you're continuously like on the weekends binging or like every 3 days binging on carbohydrates and sugar, then like I would definitely probably get that in order before you do this lifestyle, because the last thing you want is to have the sugar, the fat, the carbs, the all of that mix going together, it's just it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster because now you're going to have the sugar causing all types of oxidation of your LDL, your cholesterol in your blood, which means that stuff is not going to process through your system. And then also like the hardening of the arteries that come from the sugar, like the combination of fat, flour, sugar together is just disastrous. So I would, if I just felt all of a sudden that I needed to say this, if you are somebody who is struggling with the binge eating disorder, like please reach out to somebody for help before you start to just play around with this and do it every 3 days and then go back to your, and then and at night you're shoving donuts down. And that was my story. Like that's the way I binge ate. Like it was, I couldn't stop. Once I started, I was off and running. And then the next day I'm going to start my diet. So I can, no wonder my triglycerides and my cholesterol and all those numbers were so, my A1C, everything was just really, really, really bad. So get that in order. And, you know, you're better off probably doing like low fat stuff if that's the case in the beginning. I don't know, but just definitely not messing around with all of it until you have that like binge stuff in order. I don't know. I just felt really called to say that. So that's off topic.
To answer someone's question, running to the bathroom as in having a bowel movement, a liquid one, if
Yes.
that.
Yes. 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 I see there's quite a few people who are sugar addicts joining us today too. So maybe that's why late night snacking is my problem. I can go all day without any food, but then at nighttime, yeah. Hi, Shayna. Thank you for your input. That was my problem too. I don't know. Did you have this late night snacking problem? It was like just something I did for years.
Yeah, kind of just like out of habit too, but I feel, I mean, all that has changed since eating this way. Like I really feel like it's, and I didn't even necessarily get a hold on my issues before eating this way. I just decided this was the first time I've done something for my health and not focusing on the weight loss. I knew the weight loss would come. So that's kind of what kept me motivated. And I feel like once you get past those first couple weeks and 30 days, like everything changed for me. All the desires to do that, to crave sugar, anything, all gone. You could have a cake next to me right now, no
Yeah.
desire to eat it. Maybe if I had a bite, then it would start triggering things. But right now, if I was sitting next to it, no big deal. And that was
Yes.
not the case 4 years ago. I would have ate the shit out of that entire cake. So
Yep.
it really does change things.
Yeah. It quiets that urge, the fat and the protein. And it's like, I literally don't want it. I don't care for it. I just don't care. It's crazy to me because that's was my life obsession, is when was the next time I was gonna get my fix. And at the time I didn't know it was like that, but even as a little girl, it was like, oh, there's gonna be pizza here. That's all that I thought about until the pizza got there. And then when the pizza got there, I was the first one, and it was like very I would be really stressed out that like I wasn't gonna get a piece, or I wasn't gonna fill that imperious urge of sugar. And to that was a part of my life, my whole entire life, until I started going into the ketogenic lifestyle and messing around with fat and protein. And I shouldn't, and I didn't, I don't want to say I messed around with it, because it was very strategic and it was very intentional to move this way. And then when I started to see the benefits, it was like, okay, boom, here we go. We're doing this.
Yeah, and that's the beauty, I feel like, of eating this way too, and not a typical keto. Maybe they call it dirty keto. I don't know. But when I was keto, I was all about those treats or low carb tortillas. And the low carb tortillas, like the Mission ones or ever, have like the gummy texture. And I would eat the whole freaking package because to me, it was just all about net carbs. I didn't care what the ingredients were. They could be garbage, didn't matter, because it was all about weight loss for me. But this time, focusing on the health and how good you feel, like I'm surprised at what I did in the past. Like, why was I eating all that stuff just to lose weight? So very
Yeah.
different mindset eating this way too.
Yep. Very, very, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with you. And lastly, because I do have to go, I just wanted to also, you said something that made me think about this. If we're not getting enough fat, and this was my problem, is I was having massive cravings. I mean, massive cravings. And I remember reaching out to Austin and being like, I want to have this monk sugar fruit thing. And monk fruit, whatever, chocolate lilies, whatever. And she was like, more fat. Don't worry about calories. Don't worry about weight gain. Don't worry. We got to get that thing taken care of. So when the fat started to, when I started getting enough fat and it was going into those parts of my brain that were craving the sugar, the cravings, Courtney, stopped. It took me 2 weeks to figure out, like, okay, I'm going higher. Okay, I'm eating more. Okay, I'm eating more. And boom, it just shut off. It was crazy.
Yeah, and that can be scary for somebody in the beginning, especially if you do have weight to lose. Because, and I know I've seen a lot of people's stories where they gained weight in the beginning of eating this way, but they were healing, long time issues. So yeah, I mean, it goes against everything we've been taught too. People are afraid of fat when it's
Mm-hmm.
really healing.
Yeah, and just to drop a couple of, well, main name, Ansel Keys, if you want to go look him up, that'll take you down a rabbit hole of everyone else and kind of what happened there with where the switch was happened from sugar, from, fat being the problem. And then we had to fill up that energy source with something else. It was like, all right, well, I got this sugar company. So then they started, just, you can take their whole book on it. You can go down that rabbit hole yourself. But yeah, gosh, I could have just kept going with you. It's already been an hour.
Hours. It flies by whenever I do these because there's so much, like there's a million different little snippet topics we could talk on this. Like I love it. It lights me up.
Yeah, totally. Me too. I'm just going to insert real quick. Oh, before I insert, I want you to tell people where they can find you. Do you have like whatever you want to say right now
Okay.
about, are you working on like a carnivore book or something? I don't know, because you should, like a recipe book.
I am actually slowly, I have a bunch of ideas written down, loosely called Carnivore in the Kitchen because I don't want to try and convince someone to eat this way. It's more like, oh, you've decided you want to eat this way and you know why. You've got all the science. Now I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you like in the kitchen side of things.
I love that.
So Lord knows when that's going to come out. I've got a 2 and a 4 year old. My hands are full with that. I work in the cracks of times. But yeah, you can find me at It's Courtney Luna on all the things. TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest. Go to Pinterest. Save all my recipes. It'll make your life easier. Um, I'm on YouTube. I think it's just Courtney Luna on there. Let me shamelessly plug my shirt. Sorry, it's like a boob shot. This is my motto: eat meat and question everything. So I have shirts and stuff. Not trying to even like sell that. That's just my motto. Like I am all about eating meat and questioning everything you've been told because I feel like we've been lied to, and that's a whole other topic to go down.
Yeah, it's things are a little upside down. Thank you so much. You guys heard all the details. Definitely follow Courtney. And this is going to be going up on my YouTube channel. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. And please remember that everything that you heard here were our opinions and it's not medical advice. We're just here to share our experience. And I hope that you found something in our stories that speak to your life. So go ahead and share this with anybody you think might benefit from it. And we will see you next time. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Courtney.
Thank you so much for having me. That was awesome.
Thank you. And thanks everybody who joined, guys. This will be up to watch later. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one. We'll do it again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.